Welcome to the Against the Stream Meditation Center Friday night class that is usually the east side of Los Angeles in Frogtown, that I co-teach with Soma and Ward. My turn to teach tonight. We each alternate teaching. And I'm teaching from, since we are continuing to be in social isolation, teaching at the Against the Stream Center in Venice. And for everybody tuning in on Instagram, welcome, and Facebook, welcome. The sound is better on Facebook than on Instagram because I have a mic that goes to the Facebook. It should be better over there. If you can't hear well, you can switch over to Facebook. We're in a series of teachings on Friday night based on my book, Heart of the Revolution, which is my commentary on Buddhist heart practices, what we call the Brahma Viharas, loving kindness and compassion, appreciative joy and equanimity, as well as some large sections on the importance of forgiveness and generosity and service. My chapter tonight is about kindness, the practice of loving kindness, the application of loving kindness. I think I'll start by sharing the loving kindness sutta, which is the core teaching from the Buddha on this meditation instruction. And there's something about the way that it came to be. There's a story, as these stories go, whether it's completely true or not, but something about how some monks came to the Buddha and said, we're suffering a lot from fear, from worry, from anxiousness about the world and feeling unsafe in our environment. And the Buddha said, well, here's how to practice so that you will not suffer about fear. This is the antidote to fear. This is the way to develop an attitude of unconditional friendliness and love towards all beings. And if you love all beings, and you won't fear them and you won't suffer. And his words, as recorded, are this. The Buddha said, "This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be at ease, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be at ease. And let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies, downwards to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will, whether standing or walking, seated or laying down. Free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to fixed views. The pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. So the core meditation instructions there's a lot there, but the core meditation instruction are two parts. One is the wishing in gladness and in safety may all beings be at ease. And the second is it's encouraging this practice of radiating kindness over the entire world. So I want to start with a practice of what we call metta, loving kindness, or unconditional friendliness. It feels so appropriate. Of course, it's always appropriate, but right now, my sense is that people are suffering more from fear around the pandemic and coronavirus than actual direct experience, more about what's going to happen with the world. Are we going to get sick? Are our loved ones going to get sick? Are we going to lose our financial? Are we going to lose our businesses? How are we going to, it's all of this fear of what's next. Some of them are very verified, very healthy, very good concerns to have. But also what the Dharma teaches us is that we can learn to respond and act appropriately without laying that extra level of anger and judgment and fear on top of the already difficult situation. So I offer loving kindness as the meditation instruction tonight with the hope that it will help ease some of the layers of fear and suffering that we are putting on top of an already difficult situation. So as you're ready, find a way to sit, find a posture. Feel stable, upright, and relaxed. Allow your eyes to be gently closed. Establish an attitude of kindness, of friendliness, of love in your heart and your mind. As you breathe in, feel the breath coming in through the nostrils, expanding the chest. Belly rises. As you breathe out, soften, release. Let the anxiousness, the fear, the tension melt from your brow and your eyes, your shoulders. Soften your belly into the present just as it is, with an attitude and intention to be kind, to be loving, to be friendly to yourself in this moment. And beginning with this phrase from the Metta Sutta, may all beings be at ease. Saying that slowly in your mind, over and over in your heart. May all beings be at ease. And imagine radiating this attitude of heart, this feeling, over the entire world. May all beings be at ease, extending goodwill, friendliness. May all beings be at ease with their experience just as it is. This is not a delusional wish for things to be other than they are, but a realistic, kind thought that wishes for all beings to live in acceptance of what is and to respond wisely to what is. May all beings be at ease with the realities of their own heart and mind, with their lives in this difficult time, perhaps. May all beings be at ease, an attitude of kindness that spreads throughout your home, anybody else that's there with you, neighbors, wishing for their ease. Out into your neighborhoods, wishing for ease to all of the people in the immediate vicinity. May you be at ease with yourself just as you are. May you be at ease with the worries, the fears, the discomforts, the insecurity, the not knowing what's next. May you be at ease. Wherever you're meditating right now, radiate kindness in all directions throughout your neighborhood. May all beings in this area find ease, find well-being, peace in their hearts and minds. May all beings be at ease. And reflect on the beings that are east, west, north, south, in front of you, behind you, wherever you're sitting and meditating. And let it expand in widening circles to include your whole town or city. All of the beings who are suffering right now, learn to be at ease with their pain. Learn to meet their pain with compassion, mercy. And all of the beings who are experiencing joy, meet it with non-attached appreciation, not clinging and suffering. You be at ease with your joy, with your sorrow. May all beings be at ease. It's the training of the heart, the mind. May we be at ease with life as it is, with the presence of the coronavirus, the social isolation, with our hearts and our minds reacting. May we be at ease with the fears about money, about our situations in the material world. Wishing for ease with what is. Radiating kindness. May all beings be at ease. And extending beyond your city to cover your whole region, your state, your country, your continent, east and west, north and south. Reflecting on the millions of people until it becomes billions of people all across North America, all across Europe, Australia, Africa, Central America, South America, Mexico, the poles, all of the islands in the Atlantic and Pacific, India, Tibet, Southeast Asia, all across China and Korea and Japan, Philippines and Indonesia, the whole planet. Radiating kindness over the entire world as the Buddha encourages this training of heart. May all beings be at ease. Over and over in your heart and mind. Acknowledging all of the suffering and fear. With compassion, with caring, with mercy. And responding with kindness. A kind wish for your own heart and mind. Radiating kindness. May all beings be at ease. All beings in existence, the billions of humans and beyond the human realm, the animals, the sky and the sea, the earth, from the smallest one-celled life forms to the largest mammals. What we share with each other is a wish to be at ease, a wish to not be harmed. Perhaps an unconscious voice that instinctual drive, internal voice that says, please don't harm me. Please don't kill me. You can connect with that, with all life forms, with the wish, with the kindness. May all beings be at ease. Just as I wish to not be harmed, not be hurt or killed, may all beings be at ease. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease, radiating kindness over this whole planet, meeting the fears with compassion, freeing ourselves from the extra levels of fear, and generating a heart of kindness. And remember to include yourself in the all. All living beings includes ourselves. May we all be at ease with ourselves just as we are, with this human mind and heart and body. I'm not sure if we can be free from fear, but may we learn to be at ease with fear. Not sure if we can be free from worry, but we learn to be at ease when the mind is worrying, when the body is uncomfortable, when the heart is grieving. May we learn to be at ease. Remember to soften your belly. Release your jaw. Open the chest, open your heart to the fullness of emotion and sensation. May we learn to be at ease with ourselves just as we are. May we learn to be at ease with each other just as we are. May we learn to be at ease in this world just as it is. Allowing your eyes to be open as you're ready. This chapter is called Kill 'Em All with Kindness. Jack Kornfield tells a story about a mother whose only child a teenage boy, was killed in a gang war. The mother of the murdered child went to a court hearing of the young gang member who had killed her son, and with an icy and vengeful look in her eyes, told him, "I am going to kill you." The young gangster shrugged it off. He was on his way to prison for a very long time, and how was this old lady going to get him anyway? After the gang member had been in prison for some time, the mother of the boy he had killed began to visit him. Although he was suspicious of her motives, he accepted her visits, since no one from his family ever came to see him. She never mentioned her dead son. She spoke with what appeared to be friendliness, expressing concern for the prisoner's well-being and interest in his life. On a more concrete level, the mother put money on his commissary account and brought him books to read or newspaper clippings about things she thought might interest him. They became so close that the boy began to think of this kind woman as the mother he'd never had. He felt great remorse for having killed her only child and thought that perhaps he was repaying his debt to her by allowing her to treat him as her child. Years later, when the boy who had grown into a man came up for parole, the now elderly lady testified on his behalf, saying that she believed he had been rehabilitated, but she requested that, as a stipulation of his release, he be mandated into her custody, paroled to her home. The man, remembering her oath to kill him one day, began to wonder if this whole time she had just been plotting her revenge. But since he had nowhere else to go, and since he had truly grown to love this woman, and for the most part trusted her, he agreed to being released into her custody. And so he was. Sometime after having been released from prison, while eating dinner together one evening, the reformed gang member asked the old woman if she was still planning to kill him. "I already have," she replied. Her plan from the beginning had been to kill with kindness and forgiveness the murderer he had become. She told him that he was no longer that young boy who had killed her son. That person had died long ago, and he was now an honorable and trustworthy man. She said that he was free to leave her home anytime he pleased, but that she hoped he would stay. They cried together and they laughed together, both enjoying the truth of her confession. And he stayed on with her, caring for her into her old age until she died some years later. Our task as practitioners is to kill with kindness all of the causes of suffering. The Buddha first taught loving kindness to a group of monks who had been practicing meditation in the forest. The monks had been experiencing great fear that the spirits of the forest did not want them there and would attack them. Probably they were just afraid of the dark. Their fear became anger toward the forest, and their anger became generalized ill will. And of course, when someone feels angry, unsafe, and resentful, it becomes more and more difficult to meditate. So the monks went to the Buddha asking for advice on how to deal with the perceived threat. The Buddha's advice was the teaching we just practiced, the Metta Sutta. He went into detail, offering the instructions we just did, urging the monks to wish for happiness and ease to wish for happiness and ease for all beings. It is said that after receiving these teachings on how to live a life of kindness, with the desire and willingness to not only not cause harm, but also to protect each other and all beings, the monks went back to the same place in the forest, but with a new attitude and outlook. As they recited the phrases of kindness, saying over and over, "May all beings be at ease," the forest began to feel safe. The fear of being attacked left them, and all of the beings of the forest began to appear friendly. Birds seemed to be singing sweet songs just for them. The mosquitoes seemed to leave them alone. And even when a mosquito or other bug did bite one of them, they were happy to be able to share some of sustenance to that life form. As their hearts became kind, their environment felt safe. Having killed the fear, they were free to practice meditation and peace. Sometimes it is said that this experience of kindness is the antidote to fear, as well as to many other forms of suffering. It makes good sense that when we are coming from a place of kindness, we naturally experience the reflection of kindness from others. My own life's experience has seemed to verify this teaching to a great extent. In my early life, I was filled with anger. I was almost constantly dishonest. I caused great harm to many people, and I wished harm upon many others. I was living an almost totally opposite way than is suggested in the Metta Sutta. I had no humility, no integrity, no wish to protect anyone but myself. And living that way had me going in and out of jail regularly, addicted to drugs, and most importantly, always looking over my shoulder to see if anyone was going to attack me. I felt completely, constantly unsafe. Of course, crack cocaine has a way of making a person paranoid, but my fear was rooted in the chaotic reality of my life at that time. Having stolen from so many people, I was always worried about getting caught. Living a life of drugs and crime, I was always afraid of the police. I was often in physical altercations, and the threat of violence on the streets was a real one. I knew nothing about being kind or loving. In fact, the world seemed to offer little more than violence and the suffering of living in fear. At the time, I was so delusional that I often felt like I was the victim. That perspective was useful. It allowed me to justify the ways that I was hurting other people by blaming my actions on the people who had hurt or betrayed me. Of course, I now know that I had created the whole scene. In an unskillful reaction to the pain of my early years, I had created the life of crime and drugs and violence that followed. Then, as I came to the practice of Dharma and recovery and learned about the principles of loving kindness, I slowly began to recreate that life by changing my ways of thinking. It was not an overnight transformation by any means. A very gradual change took place, a change that continues even now. But eventually, as I began to love myself and others, I learned to be kind and eventually came to a sincere place of wanting all beings to be at ease. The world became a safer place for me. I used to get attacked, seemingly randomly, all the time. It has now been over 20 years since anyone attacked me, not physically anyway. There have been some pretty hurtful gossip, but through long-term and intentional training of my heart through metta, I have often been successful at not taking harsh words too personally, and I have become quick to forgive. My life's experience has matched up with the Buddhist teaching that loving kindness can make the world a safe place. It also feels a lot like the story I began with, the young drug addict that I was as a kid. I killed him with metta. All of that having been said, I have to also acknowledge that this cannot always be true for everyone. I can't help but think of all the truly kind, loving people who are among those tortured and killed in Nazi concentration camps, in communist Chinese re-education prisons, in the cities and villages of the Civil War-torn countries on the African continent, and the genocide of the native peoples of North America, to single out only a fraction of the violence in our world. I am also thinking of the millions of gays, lesbians, bisexuals, and transgendered folks who've been met with violence and hatred for no reason other than their natural sexual or gender orientation. I am sure that there have been hundreds of millions of truly kind people beaten and killed for one reason or another. So how does a Buddhist reconcile oneself with the violence and suffering in the world? Perhaps what the Buddha was pointing to in this teaching was more of an inner safety than a physical safety. I'm thinking of the Tibetan Buddhist nun who is beaten and raped by the communist soldiers. Her body is violated, the greatest trauma possible. But her years of kindness and compassionate practice allow her to access an internal place of safety, a source of loving kindness that provides her with mercy and love, and that meets her attackers with forgiveness and compassion. She understands the deep ignorance that these men are in. She also understands the karmic hell they are creating for themselves. In such circumstances, metta does not protect us against being physically hurt, but it does have the potential to protect us from an immense amount of hatred and fear and all of the suffering that comes with such emotions. I believe that what I'm calling loving kindness here does have the power to protect us from the extra layer of suffering we create through greed and hatred and delusion. And in that way, it does make the world, our inner world, a safer place. The word kindness is often used as a sort of general term. What is kind depends on the circumstances. We could call it situational ethics. What is ethical and kind in each situation depends on varying factors. I'm using the term kindness in a slightly different, specific way. To be kind is to do whatever will end suffering in each situation. The kind thing to do is the skillful response in each given moment. For instance, when it comes to pleasurable experiences, the kind relationship to pleasure is almost always non-attached appreciation. If we can enjoy the pleasurable moments without clinging to them or getting caught up and craving for them to last forever, then we can avoid the typical suffering we often create around pleasure. So the kind thing to do is not get attached. But if we are not able to meet the pleasure with non-attached appreciation and consequently become attached to the pleasure, then the kind thing to do is let go. The next level of kindness that's often called for is being patient with ourselves in the process of learning to let go. So then patience becomes another act of kindness. And when our mind starts to judge us for not being very good at letting go, and we respond with forgiveness, forgiveness is an act of kindness. Get the picture? The kind thing to do depends on the situation, but it's always directed towards ending suffering. It does not mean being fake nice all the time. It means being real and responsive to the suffering we experience ourselves and perceive in others. When it comes to painful experiences, the kind thing to do is almost always to meet the experience with compassion. Compassion ends suffering. It does not end pain, but it does take care of that extra level of suffering we layer on top of our pain. In that way, the kindest thing we can do is to cultivate tolerance and compassion towards pain. One of the situations where kindness becomes tricky is when we are faced with the possibility that our seemingly kind actions could actually be causing some harm. In other words, that we could be enabling someone to suffer more through our intention to be kind. For instance, in the case of dealing with a friend or family member who is addicted to drugs, at some point in the relationship, a strong boundary is going to have to be set. While lending money to a friend in many cases could be seen as a generous and kind act, with the addict, it could be actually causing more harm than good. Most of us face this dilemma on some level or another on a regular basis. Say when asked for money on the street by someone who seems to be homeless and is obviously intoxicated. Is giving cash something that may very well lead to further addiction and suffering an act of kindness? In some cases, the kindest thing that we can do is to say no. Sometimes kindness means telling individuals a truth that they may not like hearing. At times, kindness may even hurt the recipient while still remaining kind. I don't think kindness ever has the intention of causing harm, but in some situations, harm is just unavoidable. Some of the kindest things I've ever done for myself have been amongst the most difficult and painful experiences of my life. For instance, when I started meditating, I found the retreats to be excruciatingly boring and my body was in agony much of the time. But I kept at it. Looking back, sticking with meditation retreats was the kindest thing I have ever done for myself and many, many others. What at the time truly sucked and eventually led to a radical change in my heart and mind. And the positive changes in my life had allowed me to inspire and encourage many others to take the hard and transformative path of meditation retreats. The point is that kindness comes in many different forms and from many different responses to different situations. We cannot say that generosity is always kind or that causing pain is always unkind. In the end, our practice of kindness and situational ethics becomes the way in which we kill the inner greed, hatred, and fear, not through violence, but through love and kindness. There is hope for the external transformation only if the internal revolution is firmly grounded in loving kindness. One must become the loving force of a spiritual revolutionary front. It may take only a handful of committed assassins to inspire a full-fledged war against ignorance. I figured sharing that whole chapter would make the points more clear than I felt that I could free form tonight. So I hope these reflections are useful for you. And this practice of loving kindness, I so deeply encourage you to do it every day. If you're experiencing unease about the situation in the world, wish for all beings to be at ease. And again, I just think it's so important that we're not trying to wish away reality. The wish, the friendliness that we're generating is to be at ease with the way it is. May I be at ease. May all beings be at ease with the world just the way it is. With all of the fear, with all of the death, with all of the illness. The other night I talked about how many people die every single day, and now there's a new way to die, and thousands of people are dying in this new wave, this pandemic. And the appropriate response is compassion, the appropriate response is grief. But fear tells us it's going to protect us, for the most part, just keeps us stuck. Loving kindness is the antidote to that extra level of self-created suffering and fear. It continues to be a central practice in my life, and I offer it to you and encourage you to really incorporate it into all aspects of your life. And remember these kind of phrases, may all beings be at ease, not just on the cushion, but in all of your activities. While you're washing the dishes, loving kindness, dishwashing. When you're showering, may I be at ease. May all beings be at ease. When you're, whatever you're doing, maybe you're not doing that much these days, staying home. But in your sitting practice, in your walking practice, in your scrolling through Instagram, may all beings be at ease. I offer you these teachings for your contemplation, your reflection. Don't believe me. Find out for yourself what's true. Apply the Dharma, the Buddhist practices, and see for yourself. Does it help? Does it alleviate confusion and lead to more well-being? Then trust it. And just take a moment to offer any merit that may be developed from our practice and discussion of the Buddhist Dharma. Offering this merit outward in all directions. May all beings be at ease. And together may we create a positive change on this planet. Thank you for joining me for the meditation talk tonight. If you can afford to leave a donation, please do. We're still trying to raise enough money to pay the rent while the meditation center is closed. I believe there's links to the Venmo Against the Stream Meditation Center or the PayPal for Against the Stream on the Facebook or the Instagram. Or you can go to our website, theagainstthestream.com. Some people have decided that they can give us a monthly donation of just saying, I'm going to give $25 or $50 or $100 a month in order to support the center while we're, ongoingly. So, please consider doing that if you can, and know that we will continue to offer the teachings free from charge and by donation so that everyone has access to them. Trying to think of announcements. We have 2 meditations a day here through the Against the Stream social media pages, 7:30 p.m. and 9 a.m., 6 days a week, I believe. So you can look on the website or it's posted on the social media pages. I'll be back with you. What's today? Friday. I'll be back with you Monday night at 7:30 and Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. Check out the other teachers also, Soma and Ward and Jason Siff and Jason Murphy and Rachel Savage up in Seattle doing a couple things a week. Hopefully our Memorial Day retreat will still happen in Joshua Tree at the end of May. We'll see whether or not that happens. Registration is still open. I don't know. What do you think? We're going to be able to do a retreat at the end of May? Maybe, maybe not. We hope we are. And if we are, we hope you come. If not, we'll postpone it. We also have another retreat in the fall in October. So maybe that will be the next Against the Stream retreat. We'll see. Be well. See you soon.